In a war of nations, unprecedented in its sheer scale and volume of manpower, when one actually takes the time to zoom in, there are simply thousands of small untold stories that make you say, that really happened? Well, it did really happen, and in today's video, we'll be looking at Lieutenant H.Lathrop, a B-17 pilot who had one of the most bizarre escapes from enemy territory in World War II. Performing air raids on a desperate Germany was no easy feat, and a bomb group undertaking this sort of mission could expect heavy resistance and therefore heavy casualties. Unfortunately, for Lathrop and his squad mates on their B-17, they were first hit by flak and then targeted by German fighters, forcing them all to bail out. Due to Lathrop being the pilot and trying to stabilize the crippled bomber so the rest of the crew could make their getaway safely, he was the last to jump, and he disembarked at a mere 900 feet, which was not all that good if you wanted to bail out and land on solid ground without injury. Expectedly so, after landing on the ground from such a short height, he injured his back. However, he had no time to think about it and hurriedly went to a local farmer to ask where the searching Germans were. The farmer pointed his finger in one direction and Lathrop went the opposite way. However, it seems there was a bit of miscommunication and the farmer had misunderstood him, so instead of running away from the Germans, he was running toward them. As soon as he realized this, he immediately turned around and ran while shots whizzed past his ear. He then plunged into a heavy underbrush where he would stay hidden for hours, with the German search patrols just barely missing him with their staves. Lathrop later said they stopped so close to him that he could touch them, but he was saved by the fact that two of the lazier Germans that were supposed to converge on his bush started talking instead of searching. Lathrop had somehow survived the initial ordeal, but the fact of the matter was that he was still deep in enemy territory and had no plans to become a prisoner of war anytime soon. With that said, he wandered off in the initial direction the farmer pointed and eventually found a stable where he found a young boy frightened out of his wits. Placating the young boy, Lathrop communicated to him in sign language and the boy gave him some beer and allowed him to stay for the night. When he awoke, he realized the leather pilot's jacket he was wearing would make him an extremely easy target, so he bartered with the boy and offered to trade him his leather pilot's jacket and 100 francs for a manure-crusted old black coat that made him look like a peasant farmer. Both sides were understandably extremely happy with this trade, and once again, Lathrop set off, this time to Paris, right in the center of Nazi-occupied France. He figured with so many people in one place, his chances of finding help was increased, but so of course was his chances of getting caught. Nonetheless, he decided to take the risk, and despite a couple of close calls with German roadblocks, he luckily found a sympathetic old man who housed Lathrop, bathed him, and gave him new clothes for his arduous journey ahead. The old man then directed him to the next town, where he asked a young man for help in sign language again. However, this time, no luck, as the young man pretended not to understand him and rushed to German soldiers right after the encounter. Realizing he would be found out soon, Lathrop decided to take his chances and hitch a ride on a truck-led trailer driven by a German and another German armed guard in the passenger seat. But luckily, they didn't see him in the rearview mirror. After enduring the trip with his back paining him immensely, he hopped off after several miles and was approached by a man on a bicycle, who angrily said some things in French that Lathrop didn't understand. Regardless, the downed pilot rolled the die again and hopped on yet another German vehicle. He then spotted two women on the road and decided to ask for their help. Luckily for him, the older of the two guided him to a nearby farmhouse where arrangements were made for the French resistance to smuggle him out of the country and back to Allied powers. So close to escape and on the way to friendly soil under the guise of the French resistance, he coincidentally ran into the same man on the bicycle who had berated him before, who accused him of being a collaborator, almost ending up in Lathrop being killed by the resistance if it were not for his proof of identity. After the situation subsided, however, Lathrop ended up making it to England and living to fight another day. So that was the interesting escape story of an American pilot who, against all odds, was fortunate enough to escape after making the right connections. Let me know if there are any other interesting stories like this and what you think about the French in World War II, both Vichy France and the Resistance, as I might be making a separate video on just them pretty soon. And you guys know the drill, make sure you check out all the links in the description below, including our front Discord link where you can connect with other history buffs and my Patreon if you want to support me more than you already do by watching this video. Anyways guys, as always, thank you so much for watching and I hope you learned something new.